Hello students. Today we will be talking in detail about Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. This is a very important topic in English literature and has a significant role in the development of poetry. To begin, let us talk about the first edition of Lyrical Ballads. It was published in 1798 and was a collaboration between two famous poets, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Collaboration means that they worked together to create this collection of poems. Both of them wanted to create a new kind of poetry that was different from the traditional poems written at that time. They believed that poetry should be simple and should connect with ordinary people. Lyrical ballads is often seen as the starting point of the Romantic movement in English literature. The Romantic movement was a time when writers and poets focused more on emotions, nature, imagination, and personal experiences rather than rules, logic, and traditions. This collection of poems was revolutionary because it changed the way people thought about poetry. Before this, poetry was mostly about grand themes, complex language, and fancy subjects. Wordsworth and Coleridge wanted to make poetry more natural and accessible to everyone. Now let us move to the second edition of Lyrical Ballads, which was published in 1800. This edition was very important because it included a new section called the Preface to Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth. A preface is an introduction that explains the purpose and ideas behind the work. Wordsworth wrote this preface, and it is often seen as a literary manifesto. A manifesto is a public declaration of beliefs and goals. In this preface, Wordsworth explained his ideas about poetry and what makes it meaningful. One of the key points Wordsworth made in the preface was his emphasis on natural themes. He believed that poetry should focus on nature, simple life, and everyday experiences. He wanted to write about things that ordinary people could relate to. Another important idea was the use of simple language. Wordsworth rejected the complex and fancy language that was common in traditional poetry. Instead, he used a natural and straightforward style, which made his poems easier to understand. Wordsworth was also critical of traditional poetry because he felt it was artificial and lacked true emotion. He believed that poetry should be a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. This means that poetry should come naturally from deep emotions rather than being carefully planned and crafted without feeling. However, he also mentioned that these powerful feelings should be recollected in tranquility, which means that poets should think about their emotions calmly before writing about them. The preface also discussed the role of the poet. Wordsworth described poets as men speaking to men. This means that poets are ordinary people who have a heightened sensitivity and insight. They can feel emotions deeply and express them in a way that touches others. He believed that poets have the important job of helping people see the beauty and significance of everyday life. Another major theme in the preface was the importance of imagination and emotion. Wordsworth emphasized that poetry should not just describe facts or events but should also express personal feelings and use imagination to create vivid and meaningful images. The second edition of Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth and Coleridge also included some new poems, which became very popular. One of the most famous editions was A Tintern Abbey, a beautiful poem in which Wordsworth reflects on his memories of a place called Tintern Abbey and how it influenced his thoughts and feelings. This poem is often seen as a perfect example of romantic poetry because it combines nature, emotion, and personal reflection. Let us now compare the first and second editions of Lyrical Ballads. In the first edition, the focus was mainly on presenting new and experimental poetry. However, after receiving some criticism for the unconventional style of the poems, Wordsworth and Coleridge decided to make changes in the second edition. The addition of the preface in Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth was a response to this criticism. It served as an explanation and defense of their approach to poetry. The second edition also introduced new poems that further developed their themes and ideas. The themes in Lyrical Ballads are very important to understand because they define the essence of romantic poetry. One of the main themes is nature and the natural world. Both Wordsworth and Coleridge believed that nature was a source of inspiration and moral guidance. They saw nature as something pure and beautiful that could teach people important lessons about life. Another key theme is emotion and imagination. Romantic poets valued individual feelings and creativity. They believed that true poetry came from genuine emotions and imaginative thinking. This was different from the traditional approach, which focused more on rules and structure. Everyday life is another important theme in lyrical ballads. Wordsworth and Coleridge wanted to represent rural life and ordinary people in their poetry. They believed that the simple experiences of common people were just as meaningful and beautiful as grand and heroic tales. Simplicity is a theme that runs throughout the collection. The poets deliberately chose to use simple language and avoided classical themes that were common in traditional poetry. This made their poems more accessible and relatable to a wider audience. Let us now discuss some of the important poems from the second edition of Lyrical Ballads. One of the most famous poems is Tintern Abbey, as mentioned earlier. In this poem, Wordsworth reflects on his visit to the ruins of Tintern Abbey and how the memories of this place have influenced his thoughts and feelings over the years. The poem highlights the themes of nature, memory, and personal growth. Another significant poem is Lines Written in Early Spring. In this poem, Wordsworth expresses his sadness over the destruction caused by human activities while also appreciating the beauty of nature. It reflects the themes of nature, harmony, and the contrast between human actions and the natural world. Expostulation and Reply is another poem worth mentioning. In this poem, Wordsworth emphasizes the importance of learning from nature rather than relying solely on books and formal education. It reflects his belief in the wisdom that nature offers. The Tables Turned is a companion poem to Expostulation and Reply. In this poem, Wordsworth urges the reader to leave their books and go outside to experience the beauty of nature. He argues that nature is the best teacher and can provide valuable lessons that cannot be found in books. Finally, let us talk about the influence of Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth and Coleridge. This collection of poems had a profound impact on Romantic poets and literature as a whole. Wordsworth's ideas reshaped poetry by emphasizing emotion, imagination, and the beauty of everyday experiences. His rejection of complex language and artificial themes inspired many other poets to adopt a more natural and heartfelt approach to writing. In conclusion, Lyrical Ballads is a groundbreaking work that changed the course of English literature. The collaboration between Wordsworth and Coleridge, the themes explored in the poems, and the ideas presented in the preface all contributed to the rise of the Romantic movement. Understanding this collection and its significance will help you appreciate the evolution of poetry and the lasting impact of Wordsworth and Coleridge's work. I hope this detailed explanation on Lyrical Ballads by William Wordsworth and Coleridge has made everything clear for you. Thank you for watching.